nurture versus nature, where you can, you are the product of your environment. Yes. In psychology, we call this humanism. Okay, so that you are a product of what you are doing, what is around you. You soak up your, you know, especially as little kids, you are a sponge. You just pick up everything that's around you. So if it's Italian spoken at home, that's what you're going to speak. If everybody around you eats meat, then that's what you'll think is normal. If nobody around you eats meat, that's what you're going to grow up with. If you don't listen to music, you won't listen to music. If there's always music on, you'll listen to music. It's really one of those things where you just have to look deep down at the fact that this person could do anything, and it's really important. And Dr. Suzuki really had this belief that anyone could do anything, and it's partly, again, it's been partly environmental for him. He grew up in a culture where everybody in Japan was looking to raise themselves to their higher level. Okay, it's sort of like what they call it, a spiritual awakening or something like this. I don't know too much about this, but from what I've read, they would use any tool. So you could be doing violin, you could be doing archery, you could be a long jumper, you could be a mathematician. But what you were trying to do with all those tools was to teach you, partly like a monk, to get through your problems, through any of your roadblocks, to get to your higher spiritual self. So in actual fact, before he hit on the violin, he actually did try this nurture versus nature thing in many schools. He really wanted to hit on how children learn, you know, and really at the time it was, you're good at maths, you're good at writing, you're good at art. And he really wanted to change this and talk about how children could be good at anything if you're given the right tools, if you're given the right teacher, if you're taught in the right way. But again, it's that higher spiritual awakening. Really, at the end of the day, he wanted them all to be able to do this so that they could become the best versions of themselves as adults and be able to contribute to society in a beautiful way, to have a beautiful soul, to connect to fellow man with love, right? And he really understood that it comes from the parents, that it really comes from you, you know, that all of that love and security. And he, you know, even though he wasn't a psychologist, and I'm not a psychologist, but I'm doing a few courses and things like that, even though he wasn't a psychologist, he really understood, just baseline understood about really what psychologists call attachment theory. He really understood about how you relate to your child, and how your child relates to you creates who they are as adults. And really, violin was just his tool. It was just something that he was passionate about, something that he knew about, something that he was able to use as a tool to go into society. So a lot of the teachers that I know who actually managed to study with him, unfortunately, I was a bit too young to get there, but those violins that I know who studied with him said that he was one of the reasons that it's that Suzuki method techniques can be contested in different places, because Suzuki was always trying new techniques. He was always trying the next new thing. He never really stopped learning. But the one thing that he always kept in common was that he was always teaching tonalization. He was always teaching that beautiful tone, beautiful intonation, beautiful tone. And it didn't matter. He would have a really quite different, yes, Patricia, that's okay. I'll let you back in, don't worry. So what he did his lessons in a very different style than we would have. He would have like an hour blocked out, and he would have several kids, and they would be of all different levels. He would have pre-twinkle, and he would have book 10, and he would have book 5, and they would all be there. And it would just be sort of like he would go around and go, okay, you play me this, and you would play me that, and everybody would be working on the same thing. You would all be working on beautiful tone, beautiful tone, beautiful tone, right? Because he really believed that to understand how to make a beautiful tone meant that you would really understand deep down how to have a beautiful heart. If you could really sit there and work through the frustrations, and it really is a frustrating thing to do, to learn to play the violin. The violin is one of the hardest things that you can learn to do. It involves your right and your left brain. It involves moving things micromillimeters, and it's all out to the left side of you where you can't look at it, right? You've all crossed over. One hand is doing micromillimeters and the other hand is doing big motions like playing tennis, okay? And if it's one of the most incredibly hard things to do. You don't have frets. You have to learn how to play in tune. You have to be able to learn how to play with other people. If you can work through all he believed, and I believe, that if you can work through all of those frustrations that get you to, and really understand that beautiful tone at the heart of violin playing is the most important goal, then you would have a basic understanding that as a human being, that you could work through the frustrations that it takes to be a beautiful person, and understand that that's really at the heart of living.